This is Fieldsports Channel News. Rewilding is causing a huge fuel burden in the UK's uplands, which will be a disaster for wildlife. That's the conclusion of a new report from the Campaign for the Protection of Moorland Communities. Called Burning Money, the document asks if the policies which affect the uplands are helping the people who live and work in these areas and the wildlife that thrives there. Or are the authorities being influenced by nature groups who are selling them remedies to problems that may never appear in order to maximise their own income?
The end game here, I think, is this is a land grab, and it's just making, in particular, anyone that wants to manage the vegetation on those landscapes and not rewild, it's almost impossible for them to continue, and I think that's really what this is about.
Meanwhile, a group of scientists angered by the controlled burning on Peak District grouse moors have brought out a damning report. In a project called Fire Up, a research team from the University of Sheffield set up a pilot system for the 2024 burn season, combining satellite data and 10 ground-based sensors in part of the Peak District National Park. They logged air quality impacts of prescribed burning. In a massive climb down by Scotland's nature agency Nature Scot, farmers in Orkney can now shoot ravens. The rule change will come too late for this year's lambs. However, Nature Scot is drawing up new powers for Orcadian farmers to shoot young ravens following a spate of attacks on livestock. Meanwhile, an MSP has spoken up against the Scottish Government's refusal to allow the shooting of gulls. Nature Scot says that gulls across the Highlands are not posing a risk to public health or safety. Douglas Ross, MSP, says that is rubbish. He calls on the Scottish Government to allow local communities to control gulls.
Nature Scot do not respect the views of local people and businesses. They ignore the views of local people and businesses. And on Monday, I received a response to a Freedom of Information request asking for the most common reason that licence applications for gull management are refused. And Nature Scot say it is because the applicant doesn't demonstrate that gulls are posing a risk to public health or safety. That is utter rubbish, because I know the people who are putting in these applications and they are at the end of their tether.
Do you need a new chiller for your deer carcasses? Well, you might be able to get a grant. DEFRA has opened applications for this year's Farming Equipment and Technology Fund. The scheme includes grants of up to 50% for deer chiller trailers, up to £9,900. You'll have to get your pitch in by the 10th of July 2025. Link below. It started as a post on Facebook, but now has become a story in the national press. BBC filming of its Springwatch TV show in the Peak District has led to limestone tipped into ditches to allow access for lorries, tracks widened by vehicles they were never designed for, and a meadow covered in steel plating, just when the wildflowers are coming into bloom to provide parking for production staff vehicles. Invasive parakeets are now unstoppable in the UK as their population doubles in 10 years. New figures show a steep rise in parakeet numbers in England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, according to the British Trust for Ornithology. Parakeets compete with native birds such as starlings and sparrows for nesting holes and food. They are on the general licences in England. A bill seeking to ban fox hunting in Ireland has passed the first stage of voting. However, pro-hunting campaigners say there's nothing to worry about. People Before Profit Solidarity TD Ruth Coppinger introduced the bill to amend the Animal Health and Welfare Act 2013. If enacted, it would include a ban on hunting and snaring foxes and trail hunting. It passed by a margin of 113 to 49, but now must clear 4 more stages in both the Dáil and the Senate before it can be enacted.
My understanding of it is that the system there to enable democracy to be seen to flourish and to enable TDs or MPs to have the ability to bring a bill forward to the first reading always goes through. So it's their right to bring a bill under a democracy forward. So it's gone through to the first reading, which doesn't have any reflection on the outcome. And the assurance that we've been given is that the government will reject or vote against that bill further down the line.
The government of New South Wales in Australia could be about to put a bounty on every feral animal killed. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns floated the idea of a $20 Australian payout as a potential solution to the state's feral animal problem. Invasive species such as pigs, cats, dogs and rabbits cost farmers millions of dollars in damage each year. Thanks to Richard Walton for the story. Kazakhstan says it will authorise the hunting of Saiga antelopes. The once endangered species is now so numerous it is threatening crops in the Central Asian country. And finally, a viewer has sent in videos of a badger raiding his larsen trap. The footage shows the badger making every effort to break into the cage, which was near Spilsby in Lincolnshire. The camera did not capture the moment it succeeded. In the morning, the trap's owner found it had moved about 5 metres and the magpies removed. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.